What's going on, Wolfman fans? Welcome to another episode of, well, me, doing what I do best and ranting into the camera. So today, what I want to talk about is something where I had actually considered sitting down and making a list of all these things, but because I fear that list would be too lengthy, too many things to cover, I'm going to do a little more generalization here. But I'm going to start off, because I know I'm being incredibly vague right now. I'm going to start off by saying, what in the hell is going on? People out there would have you think, well, we're fighting against systemic racism. We're trying to end racism. You know what's funny to me? The only people that seem to be trying to, quote, end racism right now is only, in my mind, three groups of people. One group is politicians who in my mind, really don't give a shit about you. Their whole end racism is usually pushed to further their own goals. Whether it's some kind of self-preservation so they don't look like the bad guy, especially with everything that's going on right now, or the other ones that are trying to make it seem like they're with you. They're with you in this fight trying to end racism, so you'll vote for them. Which usually means that these people that if you vote for them and put them in office, things are gonna just get progressively worse. Those kind of people who fake that kind of support for you to turn around and vote for them, they're not the kind of people you want to vote for. They're not the kind of people you want in office. They make things worse. The second group of people is people who, the woke crowd. They want to seem like they're down with it, and they're woke, and they know what's going on. They know the truth, as it were, and they understand, and they want to be a part of the fight to end racism. And this is people from all across the spectrum, black, white, whatever, doesn't matter. They're from all across the spectrum. The white people that are involved in this are usually the ones that you're going to find putting, the black square on their Facebook page, to show solidarity with Black Lives Matter. They're the ones that are going to be protesting with the signs that say Black Lives Matter. They're the ones that are going to be sitting there bowing down to and kissing the feet of black people at their demand so they can seem like they're not part of the problem, apologizing for their whiteness. I'm going to tell you straight up, and then I'll move on to the next group. I'm going to say straight up, I bow before no man. As a Christian and as an American, I bow before no man. I bow before the Lord. That's it. I stand up for the country and bow before the cross. That's how it is. If any person, black, white, doesn't matter, demands that I bow for them, I'm going to bow my fist square into their face, because that's the kind of response that individual deserves. That's not racism, because I'll do it to anybody. I'm equal opportunity violent to the people to people that ignorant and that stupid. Maybe that was a little bit much, but honestly, does that not piss y'all off? And I'm not talking as a white guy talking about, bowing before a black guy. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what it is, but that's not what I mean. Even if a white guy demanded I bow before him for whatever reason, no, man, that ain't happening. And you shouldn't do it either. Black people, you shouldn't bow before anybody. Nobody's asking you to. The third group of people that are in on this whole thing are people that truly, for some reason, believe in the systemic racism issue. And the reason that they believe this is because they've been lied to. They've been told that this country is inherently racist against them. And they can't survive without a little leg up from the government. They have to fight for everything look, you have to fight for a certain amount of things in this world. Everybody, to some degree, does. That's just the way it is. The world, in and of itself, does not care about you as an individual. But it's not a racist thing. Excuse me. Allergies are acting up right now. Anyways, the racism that y'all talk about is based on stuff that happened over 100 years ago, long time ago. You know, you had the Civil War that we fought to end slavery and we won. By the way, I don't give a damn how you feel about the Confederate flag or statues of Confederate generals. Dude, leave the history alone. Just leave it alone. Okay? I am not happy about statues of Baphomet that we have some crazy how decided let's erect that. Nobody's tearing statues of literally Satan himself. Nobody's tearing those down. Those aren't offensive, apparently. But some old white dude, yeah, that's a problem. And it's not just Confederate generals. So y'all can miss me with that argument. It's not just that. Hell, in England, they're trying to tear down a statue of Winston Churchill. They're trying to tear down another statue over there. I don't remember what the guy's name was, but he was a British prime minister whose main thing while he was in office, his government, their main thing was abolishing slavery. And I said it in another video. You defaced the memorial to the 54th Massachusetts Infantry, the first all-black volunteer regiment of not just the United States Army, no, the Union Army. They volunteered to fight against the Confederacy. Y'all didn't know anything about it. Y'all don't read your history. You don't give a damn about your history. You want to erase it completely and start fresh. Write your own new history. One that doesn't offend anybody. Y'all can miss me with that bullshit. Has nothing to do with racism. You wouldn't know racism. You wouldn't know the first thing about it. You wouldn't know prejudice and racial strife. You wouldn't know that if it came up and bit you in the ass. And that's clear because you idiots walk around talking about how Aunt Jemima is racist. And this is what I was going to get to earlier, all the different ways we're trying to end systemic racism. And one of those is we have to get rid of Aunt Jemima. That's racist. Can't have and Uncle Ben too. And I think the cream of wheat guy and Mrs. Buttersworth's on that chopping block as well. Because God forbid you have a black person on the cover of a box. Do you guys realize you're putting yourself into the position to where the only people that are allowed to be noteworthy and famous as black people are entertainers? People who are there for our amusement. And those people will talk about oppression all day long. There's football players on several $1 million contracts for playing a game. I mean, you can slice it any way you want, talented or not, doesn't matter. Their job is to play a game. And they make millions of dollars that most of the rest of us will never see in our lifetime. But they'll talk to you about oppression because they know what they're talking about. What's even worse is there's white celebrities out there that talk about oppression and you're cool with that. Why? I don't know. Not only are they not black, but they're also not oppressed. You guys wouldn't know the first thing about oppression or racism, slavery, anything like that. You wouldn't know it if it came and bit you in the ass. And what's hysterical is it is biting you in the ass right now. Because all you're fighting to end racism, fighting for racial equality, as you're putting it, you're not actually doing it. What you're doing is trying to bring back some kind of segregation. You're trying to bring back a form of racism. The only difference is now it's against white people. White people are the lesser people. Why? I don't know. I honestly have not a clue why this is. To me, this sounds like a revenge thing. And it's not even people who even experienced that kind of discrimination. It's these younger people. I don't know if it's you've been brought up on stories of racism or you've just grown up with lies. I'm more inclined to believe in the lies thing because honestly, Democrats have been lying to you guys forever. You keep voting for them, they'll feed you lies all day long. But their ultimate goal is to keep you dependent upon them so that they stay in power. They don't give a fuck about you. And the sooner you realize that, the better. But how are we fixing racism? Because police are racist now too. All police. They're violent racists. They exist to beat up and murder black people. Just like and I was reading this the other day about the Texas Rangers, you know, the actual, not the baseball team, although that comes into play, but no, it's about the actual law enforcement agency, the Texas Rangers. Very revered here in the state of Texas as the top tier law enforcement in the state. They're like Texas, they're like the Texas State FBI. They might as well be. They don't answer to a federal level, they answer to the state. And back in the day, their main job, you called in the Texas Rangers when everything was completely fucked. You needed some hard men to do some hard things. They used them a lot on the border because down there, closer to the border, closer to the Rio Grande, right there in Mexico, there's a wide swath of land through there. It's fairly uninhabited, kind of desert and just ugly. Not a lot of people lived there. It was prime territory for cattle rustlers and bandits. They could come into towns, steal cows, steal horses. They could come in town and rob, rob people, rob stores, rape, pillage, plunder, murder, whatever they wanted to do. And because they were so close to the border, they could very easily slip back across the border and escape any kind of pursuit from an American force because we weren't allowed to go across the border. We sent Texas Rangers down there, and not gonna lie, they killed them. They would kill bandits. That's what they did. But nowadays, it's being looked at as the Texas Rangers were basically a force of white racists, almost like the KKK, but like more heavily armed, and that their whole purpose was just to slaughter Mexicans wherever they found them. That's how they're being portrayed. This article I read was written by a guy from Chicago. Like he would have a fucking clue what the hell he's talking about, because he doesn't. In fact, his article was about how the Texas Rangers baseball team needs to consider changing their name because of the connection to the Texas Rangers law enforcement group and that kind of the bad negative connotation therein. Well, look here, Mr. Chicago. You stay up there in the Windy City where it's all nice, blue, and corrupt. When people get killed in the streets, black on black violence is at an all-time high. You go ahead and stay up there and pop your thumb in your ass and spin around and be happy. You leave us here in Texas to our own devices. Let us handle Texas. If that sounded harsh to y'all, that ain't nothing. You should hear the stuff I say off camera. We're removing the dog character dressed like a police officer. What was that little kid show, Paw Patrol? You took the cartoon police dog off of that show because it's offensive now. Are you serious? You're offended by cartoon police dog? Elmer Fudd can't have a gun anymore because that's offensive. That's dangerous. Same with Yosemite Sam. They don't want Foghorn Leghorn to have that heavy southern accent like he used to have. God forbid. What's happening here isn't the end. It's not the ending of systemic racism or racism really of any kind. It has nothing to do with that. It's changing the culture. It's making the culture of this country. It's wiping away its history. It's trying to create an androgynous. When they say multicultural, the next step after multicultural is no culture. Everybody is a blend of just gray and bland. That's it. Androgynous, There's not necessarily any male, any female. There's no past. There's no future. There's just nothing. And that sounds, what's interesting about that? The only time that matter, the only thing I can think of that makes sense is if you're trying to make a nation of cattle, make a nation of slaves. You don't want them to be able to think for themselves. You don't want them to have anything that they're necessarily proud of that they'll stand up for and fight for. You don't want that. You want a bunch of brain dead, brainwashed zombies that do your bidding for you. And that's where we're headed, because you idiots won't pull your head out of your ass. Well, I'm woke and I'm not racist because I'm a black person and black people can't be racist, but we can be prejudiced. Apparently, you can also be stupid. Stupid enough to also complain to Merriam-Webster to get them to change the definition of racism in the dictionary to suit your proclivities, how you feel about it. I don't get it. The hypocrisy and the sheer stupidity is blatant and obvious for all of you people to see. It's right in front of you. Every black person out there, if you sit there and say, Black Lives Matter, racism is bad, kill white people because they're all racist. I hate to break it to you, dude, you're fucking racist. And you're not making things better. You're making shit worse by far. Man, I have never wanted to go back to the 1990s as much as I do now. And I wasn't even, dude, I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 86, okay? So I grew up throughout the 90s. By 1999, I was going into high school, okay? All of that time before that, I was in the 90s. And yeah, there was black, there was white, there was Hispanic. We had our own little ethnic groups and ethnic cliques. But honestly, and kids are assholes anyway, but if you're an asshole, you're an asshole. But if you were cool, you were cool. It didn't matter what color you were. There wasn't, the only time that race even came into anything is when gangs were involved, which gangs are inherently retarded anyway. They used to have some semblance of a purpose, and I will give them that, but they don't anymore. They're useless. It's just a bunch of thug life wannabe fuckers running around to think that killing somebody based on wearing a particular color on a particular street corner is a death sentence, is a reason to kill somebody. I'm sorry, you're an asshole and you should be in prison forever because you're that dumb. Not even just for killing the guy. Yeah, go to jail for that, definitely, but we don't need you in the populace to infect this world with your level of stupidity. I'm sorry. This is insane. And again, I'm going to say it again. You guys think you're helping, you're making a difference, and you're a force for change, and good change at that. You think you're going to solve this racism thing. And you notice it's not just happening in the United States, it's around the world. The aim of this is not to fix racism. No. The aim of this is to put everybody in bondage. The aim is to erase the history. Erase the history so that the past generations won't know what it was like and what people actually fought for. All they will know is the present. Then their future becomes whatever their leaders want it to be. There's no cultural boundaries. There's no cultural lines. It's become so multicultural that there is no cultures anymore. And of course, they've erased the history, so you can't go back and look. It's all one blasé, bland thing across the board for the lower levels, the peons, the peasants, the plebs. Only the elite, the high social elite, only they are allowed to have anything nice. Only they are allowed to have a say in anything. You are being put back into chains. Chains. Did I say change? My bad. You're being put back into chains, back into bondage, back into slavery. That's not even to talk about the slavery that still exists today in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Middle East. Slavery that happens today, not 100, 200, 300 years ago, today, as I'm talking to you. But you won't talk about that. Nah, you're too busy ranting and raving about how your great-great-grandparents way back in the day were slaves. I hate to break it to you, but some of you black people, your ancestor was a white slave owner. That's a very big possibility. That kind of thing happened. I hate to break it to you. That's a discussion you're not ready to have. You're too busy tearing down the history. You don't want to go back and look at it and see what actually happened. But again, I'm digressing here. The real problem is what the people in power are trying to do to you. Don't let them lie to you. Don't let them tell you that you're oppressed and then make you fight against it while they kneel with the kente cloth and take a picture. Don't let that's their contribution to your efforts, to your fight, apparently. And if that doesn't send up like 100 red flags, I don't know what will. You've got your head squarely up your ass. Guys, wake up for real. I don't need you to be woke, because that's not even correct grammar. I need you to wake up. Smell the coffee. Come on in. Join the winning team here. Come on in for the big win. We need everybody to be together. We have to stand together, because if we don't, we're all going to be in chains. We're all going to be slaves. And like I've said before, I'm not even going into in-depth stuff. If you want to know more about that, there's plenty of information online right in front of you. There's plenty of other channels that know far more than I do. I'm just giving you the base level here. And I'm warning you. You keep doing this, you're going to push us you're going to regress us further into where we have essentially a monarchy and a peasant class and a nobility. We will have some kind of a noble class. It's all going to be based on money. They're going to be nobility because they have money, because were able to pay their $10 million, $20 million, $100 million, whatever it costs to have that position. You can't afford that. What if you get sick and you die? Oh well. There's several billion more to replace you, to work in the fields. That's where we're headed if you keep this up. Anyway, that's all I got. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. I know it's Saturday morning. This is pretty early for me, 9:03 in the morning. Good Lord. But I hope you guys are going to have a great weekend this weekend. It's Father's Day this weekend, so, hey, get your old man a cold one. Cook him a steak. If you don't know how to cook him a steak, it's okay. Don't burn the thing. Just take him out for a steak dinner. Everybody's old man likes a good burger or a good steak and a cold one to go along with it. So hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, an excellent Father's Day, and until next time, guys, take it easy. We'll see you in the next video. Later.